Okay. What's up, everyone? We're going live, just like I said. I'm going to try and watch this speech. We're going to try and watch it, see what's going on. Should be a chill one. Okay. All right. Here we go, Elon. There's no Twitter space? Let's picture Elon. I heard they were having some trouble, so let me see if we can figure it out. How's everyone doing today? If anyone's here, it says no one's here, but you never know. You really never know. Turn up these tunes. Tune check? Tune check? Is everyone's tunes working? I guess we just keep refreshing, right? Maybe we try Ron. Nope. He's not live either. Oh, let me set this up. There we go. There we go. There's the flavor. Wow, Ron DeSantis. And all of these bikers. Is this Ron DeSantis? Oh, it is bikers. I thought it was going to be someone else that just looked like a gang of bikers. Okay. I guess we're just going to refresh Ron DeSantis and we're going to refresh Elon until we see something come up. Is anyone else covering this? People have to be. Is it trending? Hey, what up, Iron? Is chat not connected? Dude, I don't know why chat wasn't working last time. Let me try this. Send a little test message while we wait. Spaces is trending. Almost 500,000 people. I wonder if they're having server problems. That's a lot of people. Dude, and I don't know why chat's not working. Let me try this. Let me try and find it. Make sure we can get chat going. Copy the embed link. Alright, it's gonna go black for a sec. Yeah, it said it can't. It seems like that's what's going on, huh? I might just not have chat set up correctly. I might have just forgotten to do that, I guess. What can you do? All right. Oh, it's back up. Let's go. See if we can get in. It's just like kind of gray screen for me. I don't know if anyone else is trying to connect, but 100 messages today with Restream chat. Let's go. It seems like it's just not working. Crashing it. Okay, I've never understood. They know things are going to go off, right? Because this happens with video game launches too. Stuff always crashes. Yeah, I think I forgot to add chat, Iron. I mean, I've got chat in here, but I think it's Twitch chat. I think I forgot to change it to Restream. Yeah, whenever something launches, their servers always crash, and it just boggles my mind. Like, why don't you buy more than you need? Is it that expensive? It can't be that expensive. Okay, is it better now? My camera audio got unmuted for some reason. Yep, that's it. Found it. Nuked it. There we go. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. One of my scenes is connected to my camera audio, so when I was switching around my camera, it was catching the air conditioner. Preparing to launch. Okay, this is just the replay. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing today? Super rare Zach is hosting a Twitter space, listening to another Twitter space. What? How's that even possible? Is that possible? Okay, so first off, not a very good presidential announcement. It could be a better presidential announcement if it was working. Great idea. Seemingly a terrible execution. Judging is with 25 minutes past when they were supposed to start, and it's not working still. But you know what? I'm not the president. Here we go. Maybe we got it now. Let's see if we got it now. Let me join.
Internet there.
Yeah, that was insane. Sorry, we actually doing this from David Sachs's Twitter account because it looks like doing it from mine basically broke the Twitter system. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining. We're incredibly excited to announce that if you want to have Governor DeSantis on with us with this historic announcement, and then look forward to
Can you guys hear it?
Live Q&A from.
Let me know how the audio is
the
on.
audience. So, yeah, with that.
Yeah, I mean, so Governor DeSantis, are you there? Can you hear us? I think you broke.
I'm here.
Excellent. I know. I think you broke the internet there. We had over 500,000 people in one Twitter space, and it was growing by like 50,000 a minute. So, congrats on breaking the internet there.
Well, yeah. I mean, try some new things.
You broke the internet, guys.
It's adventurous, so
yes.
But I think the value here is actually really high for people to hear directly from presidential candidates and to answer a Q&A live, and you can get a sense for how a candidate really is, and where it's not just canned speeches and teleprompters. It's in fact, you can tell by the some of the mistakes that it's real. So with that, I guess I should turn it over to
Well, let's see. So, Governor, there's been a lot of speculation over the last couple of months about your plans. I understand that you may have an announcement to make. We've got, I think, a record audience assembled here. Probably the biggest
so it's almost 100K
room that's
right
probably
now.
ever been assembled online. What would you like to tell them?
Well, I am running for President of the United States to lead our great American comeback. Look, we know our country's going in the wrong direction. We see it with our eyes and we feel it in our bones. Our southern borders collapse. Drugs are pouring into the country. Our cities are being hollowed out by spiking crime. The federal government's making it harder for the average family to make ends meet and to attain and maintain a middle-class lifestyle. And our president, well, he lacks vigor, flounders in the face of our nation's challenges,
That's
and he
not
takes
true.
his cues
We love Biden.
from the woke mob. I don't think it has to be this way. American decline is not inevitable. It is a choice. And we should choose a new direction, a path that will lead to American revitalization. We must restore sanity to our nation. This means embracing fiscal and economic sanity. Stop pricing hardworking Americans out of a good standard of living through inflationary borrow, print, and spending policies. And please embrace American energy independence. This also means replacing the woke mind virus with reality, facts, and enduring principles.
It's all these
Merit
wokies.
must trump identity politics. We must return normalcy to our communities. America's a sovereign country. Our borders must be respected. We cannot have foreigners pouring into our country illegally by the millions. We cannot allow drug cartels to poison our population with fentanyl. Public deserves safe communities, and law and order must be maintained in American cities. We can't have inmates running the asylum, and we must reject attacks on the men and women of law enforcement. We also must reestablish integrity in our institutions. This includes the military. I'm proud to be a Navy veteran, an Iraq veteran, and I revere our services. But when revered institutions like those in our military are more concerned with matters not central to the mission, whether it's global warming or gender ideology and pronouns, morale declines and recruiting suffers. And you need to eliminate these distractions, and we need to get focused on the core mission. We also cannot have true constitutional government if the most significant issues are decided by the whims of unelected bureaucrats rather than the people's elected representatives. Reestablishing integrity in our institutions means we must reinvigorate our constitutional system by returning the government to its rightful owners, we the people. No social or economic transformation without representation. Truth needs to be our foundation. Common sense can no longer be an uncommon virtue. And in Florida, we proved it could be done. We chose facts over fear, education over indoctrination, law and order over rioting and disorder. We held the line when freedom hung in the balance. And we're thriving as a result. Florida is the nation's fastest growing state. We're number one in net in-migration, number one in new business formations, recently ranked number one in education. We have a 50-year low crime rate and one of the lowest tax and debt per capita in America. But we also understand governing is not entertainment. It's not about building a brand or virtue signaling. It is about delivering results. And our results in Florida have been second to none. We can and we must deliver big results for America. I pledge to be an energetic executive that will take on the important issues. Biden's pursued inflationary policies that are hurting
here we
working
go into
people.
fiscal
We will
policy.
reverse those policies, and we'll build an economy where working Americans can achieve a good standard of living. Biden's opened the southern border and allowed massive amounts of drugs to pour into the country. We'll shut down the border, construct a border wall, and hold the drug cartels accountable. Biden's embraced medical authoritarianism, such as unconstitutional COVID vax mandates. We will ensure that those violations of liberty can never happen again. Biden's allowed woke ideology to drive his agenda. We will never surrender to the woke mob, and we will leave woke ideology in the dustbin of history. Biden's also politicized the military and caused recruiting to plummet. We will eliminate ideological agendas from our military, focus the military on the core mission, and we will reverse the poor recruiting trends. Finally, Biden's weaponized the power of the administrative state to advance his left-wing agenda. We will reconstitutionalize the executive branch, and we'll bring the administrative state to heel. Now, you can't do any of that if you don't win. There is no substitute for victory. We must end the culture of losing that has infected the Republican Party in recent years. The tired dogmas of the past are inadequate for a vibrant future. We must look forward, not backwards. We need the courage to lead, and we must have the strength to win. And to voters who are participating in this primary process,
look forward to
my pledge
early
to
2000s.
you is this. If you nominate me, you can set your clock to January 20th, 2025 at high noon, because on the west side of the U.S. Capitol, I will be taking the oath of office as the 47th President of the United States. No excuses. I will get the job done. Now, these past few years have given me a new appreciation for the fragility of our freedoms. I never thought I would see things in America that we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, but our founding fathers were keenly aware of the fragility of freedom. When they framed our Constitution, they came armed with having studied the history of every republic and the history of mankind. And they noticed that all of those experiments only had one thing in common, and it was this: every single one of them had failed. And so they knew it fell to our country, the United States of America, to determine whether people could really govern themselves. Could we have a society based on the idea that our rights are God-given, not government-granted, and that society functions based on the rule of law, not the rule of individual men? And when Dr. Benjamin Franklin walked out of that convention, he was asked, did you deliver a republic or a monarchy? He said, a republic if you can keep it. They knew freedom didn't run on autopilot. They knew each generation would have a responsibility to safeguard freedom, and it's our responsibility to do so at this important juncture in our nation's history. We have a lot of work to do to ensure the country gets back on track. I ask everybody listening to please join me on this mission. Please invest in our campaign by going to rondesantis.com and making a donation. Thank you. God bless, and I look forward to the discussion.
I'll never.
All right, thank you, Governor. Appreciate that.
To anyone.
I guess just as a first follow-up here, thank you for putting up with these technical issues. I think we're definitely breaking new ground here. As far as I know, no major presidential candidate has ever announced their candidacy on social media this way. Certainly in a Twitter space.
In 2020.
Thank you for doing that. What made you want to kind of take the chance of doing it this way, as opposed to just doing it on cable news or the usual way?
Well, when COVID hit, I had to make decisions about, do you go with the crowd or do you look at the data yourself and cut against the grain? And I chose to do the latter. I faced huge blowback for doing that from the bureaucracy, from elites, from the media. But my view was I had to look out for the people I represented, prefer protecting their jobs over trying to safeguard my own political hide. But it was very, very lonely in a lot of those decisions. And part of the reason it was so lonely is because there was a concerted effort to try to stifle dissent. There was an official narrative about lockdowns, about closing schools, about forced masking, about all these different things that we had to navigate during COVID. And it was an orthodoxy being enforced by the major tech platforms in conjunction with the federal government. And if we can't have an honest debate in a free country about issues that affect hundreds of millions of people, like lockdowns, then what good is the First Amendment at that point? Those are precisely the times when we needed to have debate be robust. You should not be taking down articles that criticize those draconian policies, and yet that's exactly what happened. So it occurred to me that if that had continued, I think free speech in this country was on its way out the door. And so when Elon Musk stepped up to purchase Twitter, he paid a lot of money for it. And I'm sure because he's a good businessman, Elon, I'm sure you'll end up making money off it. But bottom line is you had to put your money where your mouth is, because I think you recognize that you can't have a free society unless we have the freedom to debate the most important issues that are affecting our civilization. That did not happen during COVID. The truth was censored repeatedly. And now that Twitter is in the hands of a free speech advocate, that would not be able to happen again on this Twitter platform. So I think what was done with Twitter is really significant for the future of our country. We cannot have a society in which government is colluding with major tech platforms to enforce an orthodoxy.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're absolutely committed to freedom of speech and a level playing field, and just a vigorous debate. And hopefully, this can be a platform that brings people of divergent political views to exchange those views, and perhaps some minds will be changed one way or the other. And but it's just incredibly important, as you highlight, that the First Amendment is irrelevant if all the media and all the and the government are operating in lockstep. It makes the most important amendment, the one that was most urgently added to the Constitution, moot if you cannot have free and open debate. So Twitter was indeed expensive, but free speech is priceless.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Governor, I'm going to ask some questions while we get some other kind of speakers in the queue to ask questions. I think maybe some people knew this announcement was coming because there's been no shortage of hit pieces on you in the press over the last week or two. I want to ask you about some of these accusations that are being leveled at you. Last week, the NAACP issued a travel advisory against your state, claiming that Florida is not a safe place for minorities to visit. What do you say to those who've been advised that somehow they aren't welcome in your state?
Claiming that Florida is unsafe is a total farce. I mean, are you kidding me? You look at cities around this country, they are awash in crime.
Quiet.
In Florida, our crime rate is at a 50-year low. If you look at the top 25 cities for crime in America, Florida does not have a single one amongst the top 25. And if you look at cities like Baltimore and Chicago, you got kids more likely to get shot than to receive a first-class education. Yet I don't see the NAACP batting an eye about all the outrage and the carnage that's happening in those areas. So this is a political stunt. These left-wing groups have been doing it for many, many years. And at the end of the day, what they're doing is colluding with legacy media to try to manufacture a narrative. Now, the good news is fewer and fewer Americans are gullible enough to believe this dribble. And platforms like Twitter are there where people can debunk these lies in real time. And I would just say, as an American citizen, if you are uncritically accepting narratives spun by legacy media and left-wing groups, you're failing at your job of being a conscientious citizen. And I think people just see right through it. And oh, by the way, have any of these travel advisories, because they've been doing this for a while, all these left-wing groups, have any of them worked? Well, we're the #1 state for net in-migration and have been every year since I've been governor. We just capped the highest quarter for
Who listens to a
tourism
travel
in the
advisory?
history of the state of
Have you guys
Florida.
ever
And
looked
our
up a
view is we
travel
want
advisory
everybody
before
to
going somewhere?
succeed regardless of their skin color. We don't divvy up people by race. At the same time, it is worth pointing out that we have in Florida more Black-owned businesses than any state in the nation.
There it is.
And we've also had more African
They're the
Americans
real
lead state
racists.
agencies under my administration than at any time in Florida history. But with us, they're there because of merit, not because we're trying to play identity politics. And if you want to look at education, the Black students in Florida perform much higher than Black students in most other states. We rank #3 in 4th grade reading and #2 in 4th grade math amongst our Black student population. And oh, by the way, the head of the NAACP
Why are Republicans trying to
lives in
win the black
Florida,
vote? They vote
and a lot of their
98%
board
Democrat no
members
matter
have
what.
put out on social media during my
Trump did that too.
governorship
It's such a weird
Florida
line.
vacations where they seem to be having an awful good time.
That's great. Well, I mean, Florida's a great state, and I think everyone, the people realize that. Some of the things that
Florida
are being said are
sucks.
just truly absurd.
It's all muggy.
I mean, I saw some headline from The Atlantic, basically claiming that anyone who listens to this Spaces on Twitter is basically a Nazi.
That was The Atlantic, and then Vanity Fair said that
the white man is back, baby. The white man is back.
David Duke wasn't available.
Oh yes.
Although I'm not totally sure who they were saying was David Duke. I don't know if it was you or Governor DeSantis. It's sort of a little bit unclear, but
they're both
but
David
I think this
Duke,
is a function of
get the net.
The legacy media, these corporate journals, they're in their little bubble. And to draw allusions to stuff like that, I mean, how crazy do you have to be? But in their little bubble, it sounds like they're making some type of profound point. And so part of, I think, what Twitter is standing for is people should be exposed to different viewpoints. And I think the elites in our society have tried to cluster themselves to where their assumptions are never challenged. And that's not a good way, I think, to live. It's also not a good way to be a critical thinker, because no one's ever going to question obviously wrong assumptions because everybody around you shares them.
Absolutely.
And I think they become totally hysterical because they don't like the idea that their control over the media is being, disintermediated.
Yeah.
Because now
it's those businesses
for
that control the media
directly to people
all those
through
leftists,
platforms like
they all
Twitter.
Control.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing thing about Twitter and things like Spaces are that, although I happen to be hosting it, I had to switch over to David hosting it because my account was actually
there's too much interest. But
my account was breaking the system, but there's really never been a mechanism before where someone could address the nation, or anyone who wanted to listen to them could, from anywhere in the world, the United States or anywhere. So I think this is a really profound change. And it's also like it's not just whether the media reports something, an article is true or not. Even more powerful is deciding what the narrative is. And
totally.
So, it's just like, if there's only so much you can actually fit in a newspaper or a magazine. And there's only one thing you can really put on the cover of a magazine. So that whoever's deciding that is deciding to not talk about other things. Whereas with a public digital town square like we have here, it's possible for the public to choose the narrative. It empowers the people instead of a very tiny elite cabal, which I don't recognize the irony of me using that phrase. But nonetheless, it's true. And you judge by the results that this is a means for the people to decide the narrative, and for the people to decide which way a debate will go, not sort of 5 editors-in-chiefs of a few newspapers, basically.
Yeah, and I think one of the really crazy things that happened during COVID is that social networks really started censoring dissenting viewpoints on COVID, medical viewpoints that ended up being totally correct in lockstep with what the mainstream media was doing. So basically, big tech platforms were undermining their main reason for existing, which is giving people a choice. And actually, there's somebody who I think knows more about that than any of us, which is Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who's a professor of medicine at Stanford. I want to pull him in here. Jay, you go ahead and unmute yourself if you can. It'd be great to hear from you. I know that during COVID, you worked with Governor DeSantis. It'd be great just to hear a little bit about your interactions and if you have a question for the governor.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute honor to work with Governor DeSantis, and I was really impressed by his decision making in the face of an absolute firestorm of criticism. But Governor, you did the right thing when you opened the schools. And my kids in California for a year and a half didn't see the inside of a classroom, whereas Florida kids were in school. And you can see it in the results, and the learning loss numbers are so much better in Florida. I'm really curious, Governor, as you're running for president, what are your thoughts about reforming, the public health authority in the United States and the federal government, the CDC, the FDA, the NIH? How do you see the reforms we need so that the mistakes of the lockdowns that happened during the pandemic don't happen again when there's another pandemic?
Well, first, we need an honest reckoning about what happened during COVID. And the only honest reckoning is that all of those agencies, all of the elites, the public health establishment, they failed. They instituted bad policies. Obviously, it's a novel virus, but I think what happened was when the data was becoming more and more apparent that the path they were on was wrong, they doubled down and wanted to do it even more. And I really believe had Florida not just kind of stood in the way, I think this country would have had rolling lockdowns for probably a 2-year period. And so their impulses were authoritarian. They were not following the data. And I think the U.S. government needs to acknowledge the failures. And I think all of those agencies need to be cleaned out. What I saw just dealing with them was I saw a interest in the narrative and in politics over evidence-based reasoning and evidence-based medicine. And so I don't have confidence that those agencies are up to the task. And I think you need major overhaul of the whole enchilada with respect to public health in this country.
Can I follow up with that? I mean, I think the other thing that I saw during the pandemic, Governor, and you was subject to it just as much as I was when we were talking about COVID. YouTube censored a video of us speaking about in a roundtable that you hosted on COVID policy. There's so much of the federal government infrastructure went into suppressing honest scientific discussion during the pandemic. So it's not just public health agencies, but other agencies inside the federal government that worked to suppress the speech of Americans. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
No question. So I'm actually in Florida. We recognize the danger there. So I'm actually going to be signing a digital bill of rights for Florida pretty soon, which will bar all state and local government officials from colluding or working with a technology company for the purpose of censorship of speech. Because you're exactly right. You had people in the White House, you had people in all these other agencies working with these platforms to try to take it down. And oh, by the way, what did they censor Dr. Bhattacharya for? It was a roundtable discussion that I led and convened. We had Dr. Bhattacharya, MD, PhD from Stanford. We had Martin Kulldorff from Harvard Medical School, and we had Sunetra Gupta from Oxford, who was generally viewed as one of the best epidemiologists across the pond until she became anti-lockdown. So these are all eminent people. And what are we discussing? We're discussing whether there's any scientific basis to force a school child to wear a mask for 8 hours a day. They all agreed there was no basis to do it and that you should not have school mask mandates. YouTube thought that was, quote, anti-science and that should be taken down. But even at that point, we had already had enough experience in Florida where you had some schools that had done it before the state banned the mandates. You had some schools that had done it, some schools didn't, and the results were no different. And yet his video was taken down by Google, YouTube. So it was a huge problem. And yes, I think the federal government, FBI, DHS, any of the health agencies, it's unconstitutional for them to be delegating speech restriction to a private company. You can't do indirectly what the Constitution would clearly forbid you to do directly.
We need bigger
Let
than
me
Florida,
pull
though.
in. We have Congressman
We need an
Thomas
executive
Massey.
order on that.
If you're there, go ahead and unmute yourself. I mean, what we're talking about here is, I think, really unconstitutional actions by federal agencies. Congressman Massey, I know that you've been involved in this problem of government agencies being weaponized and used against the American people in an inappropriate way. Do you have a comment on this? And do you have a question for Governor DeSantis?
Well, first of all, let me say a big thank you to Elon Musk for buying Twitter and exposing all of this.
Shout outs to Elon.
On our weaponization committee, we wouldn't know so much of it if he hadn't done this, almost as a public service to the First Amendment. It's a disturbing trend. Government, as the governor said, the government is colluding with big corporations. We found out this week from an FBI whistleblower that Bank of America voluntarily gave names of and information on anybody who bought a hot dog in Washington, D.C. from January 5th to January 7th, and then overlaid that with gun purchases that they had on record anywhere in the country for any period of time. And just, they say they voluntarily gave that to the FBI. So that's disturbing to me. By the way, I've never met Elon Musk, but I'm one of your biggest fans. I'm the first congressman to have a Tesla. I'm on Starlink.
Who runs Chase?
And I would have bought a Powerwall, but I'm off the grid, and you wouldn't sell me one, so I had to make one with a wrecked Model S, and it's been running our house for 5 years. But my
and just for the record, I was with Thomas our first year in Congress. He's got the Tesla, but his license plate is Kentucky Coal. So it's he's probably one of the only people that have that in the country.
Thanks for outing me, Governor DeSantis. But no, so Governor DeSantis, my question to you is, you served here in Congress for 6 years with me. And why is it that Congress is so feckless at reining in these government agencies? And what do you think we need to do? And if you were president, what would you urge Congress, or what bills would you like to see and sign to rein?
You got to get rid of term limits.
Sort of overreach
and then tell them to stop.
Well, first, I think there's a lot that the executive branch can do, and all I will say when it comes to these agencies, we'll go into this a little bit more as the campaign goes on. But buckle up when I get in there, because the status quo is not acceptable, and we are going to make sure that we reconstitutionalize this government. And these agencies are totally out of control. There's no accountability, and we are going to bring that in a very big way. Now, part of the reason it's gotten so bad, power has been consolidated and effectively a fourth branch of government, because Congress hasn't used its two main powers that it has under the Constitution. First, the power of the purse. If an agency is engaging in conduct that is outside the realm of what is legal, or you think it's not good for the public interest, then you can remove the funding for those operations. There's nothing that they're not entitled to get the same level of funding every year, and yet Congress runs the government on autopilot, either continuing resolutions or massive omnibus spending bills. So these agencies are all bulletproof. They know that they're going to end up getting something similar or more every single year, and it creates an incentive for them to abuse their power. The other thing you can do is actually legislate, so you're not delegating to the bureaucracy key issues regarding how to enforce federal law. You should define what you want. All they should be doing is implementing. Instead, Congress will basically give an invitation for the bureaucracy to make really important substantive decisions. And so Congress may never vote on something, and the bureaucracy will cite a law from 20 years ago and do things that are going to transform our society or our country. That is not the way the founding fathers drew up the Constitution.
So would you sign the REINS Act? We passed it out of Judiciary today.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That would, I think, be a great check for that. I also think that we're going to have a good chance to see some of this Chevron deference really curtailed, or maybe even eliminated based on the U.S. Supreme Court's upcoming jurisprudence. And I think that's another reason why the bureaucracy has become so powerful, because courts have basically been told they can pretty much do what they want, and courts are supposed to just defer. I don't think that that's actually correct. I think the courts They have to make a judgment about what does the law actually say, and you can't just defer to quote unquote experts in the bureaucracy.
Thank you.
All right, shifting gears, Governor, I want to ask you another topic that's been in the news a lot is Disney. They blamed you for canceling plans for $1 billion investment in Florida, said they were canceling 2,000 jobs. I saw other reports that suggested Disney was going to make the cuts anyway, and
Ron
due to a
DeSantis
larger
hates children.
budget
That's
cutting
what I heard.
initiative. Regardless of why they did it,
Specifically children.
why do you feel your fight with Disney remains important? Considering you already beat them on the parental rights bill that they opposed, and what would you say to some of your opponents in this race who
I just want Ron
argue that the
DeSantis to
fight
say
has dragged on
something
too long?
completely unreasonable.
So first of all, Florida stands for the protection of children. We believe jamming gender ideology in elementary school is wrong. Disney obviously supported injecting gender ideology in elementary school. They did oppose our parents' rights legislation. And the fact is, when they opposed it, that was a big deal because for 50 years, anytime Disney wanted something in Florida politics, they pretty much got it.
Janix,
But
Elon
not
is
this time.
hosting
I
it
signed the
for
bill.
Ron DeSantis
We
to
did,
run.
as you say, win on the issue.
Nope,
but
this is just his
what
announcement.
happened
Now they're throwing him
was,
softballs.
Disney's
I'll
posturing,
probably listen to
some
a
of the
couple
other
more questions
statements
and
that
give
their
you guys my
executives were
take on
making,
it.
kind of the corporate culture had really been outed as trying to inject matters of sex into the programming for the youth. And I think a lot of parents, including me,
If
look
you
at that and
vote
say that's not appropriate.
against
we
Ron
want our kids
DeSantis,
to be able
you
to just
love
be kids,
pedophiles.
and that's kind of our mantra. So
Just
you
say
had
that.
this setup that Disney engineered many decades ago,
We need more
where they
hyperbole.
actually had their own government that they controlled with no accountability. They were exempt from the laws that all their competitors had to follow, massive tax breaks, and they even racked up municipal debt. And Florida basically put them on a pedestal many decades
Janix,
ago.
tell me you're
joined the
voting for
state with this one
DeSantis.
company at the hip.
Right now, I want to
We just
pledge.
didn't
Tell me you're
feel
voting
that
for him.
we were comfortable maintaining that relationship.
If you're not,
And
I'm going to
so
ban
we
you.
ended their
This is a
self-governing
we're
status.
DeSantis heads around here.
So Disney has to live under the same laws as everybody. They got to pay the same taxes as everybody, and obviously they'll be
And by that, I
responsible
mean the
for those
opposite.
debts. So the reason why there's a quote fight is just because they filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida, trying to get their special privileges reinstituted. But I don't think that that's good policy. And I think some of these Republicans that are taking Disney's side, they're basically showing themselves to be corporatists, because these are all corporate goodies. This is not the way you would run a competitive economy. And the arrangement had really outlived its usefulness, but it persisted because Disney was so politically powerful. I think the company's ethos have changed in a way that's alienated a lot of people in our legislature.
Dude, Kennedy,
and in Florida.
Kennedy is
so
interesting.
There was really no justification to keep it. But
He's
make no
definitely
mistake,
interesting.
they're suing to try to get special privileges. People are making money in Florida hand over fist.
His voice, though,
because we have a great business
it's such a
climate.
deal
That's
breaker.
not good enough for them. They want to be
wish it
treated
wasn't.
differently than Universal and SeaWorld, and we don't think that that's appropriate. So, I think that they should withdraw the lawsuit, but obviously we're going to defend our actions because we think we have the right to do what we did.
It's funny. The media used to criticize Republicans for being in the pocket of big corporations, and now they're attacking you because you're not.
Well, not only that, David, it's interesting because the media in Florida for years had hammered Disney, and they would point out like that this was not a good arrangement because Disney was not accountable to anyone. I mean, when the state control board took over this district, the firefighters came to the board and they said, "Hey, we weren't getting survivor benefits for some of these widows." And so the state control board actually paid out some of the benefits that they were getting stiffed on. There were a lot of people in Central Florida who were really thankful that there was some accountability being brought to bear because, it's human nature. If there's no accountability over any individual or entity, of course, they're going to behave differently than if you have normal accountability. But the media was always very hostile to that. But just because I happen to be involved in bringing it back to reality and making sure that they were under the same laws, well, then all of a sudden they're running to Disney's defense. I mean, are you kidding me? And oh, by the way, on this project, they had announced this many years ago. They had not done anything for it, but that is actually not in Reedy Creek. So that was in a different part of Orlando. And
All
so
right.
none of the issues
All right.
that are involved
I think
in
we.
this suit
I
would
think
have
I just want to
would have
talk
made
about
a
it now.
difference there.
Give me a 1
Obviously,
if you
as a
guys want to
publicly
keep
traded
listening. Give me a 2 if
corporation,
you guys
they have
want
a
my take.
fiduciary duty to do
We
what's
can
best for their shareholders.
try
So
and
I'm
get some other
assuming
people's
if they were
opinions
in better
too.
financial
So
shape
1
and
if you
they
want to
saw
keep
the
listening, 2 if
project
you
as
don't.
lucrative, they would have gone forward with it. But I think clearly they've had some problems with their stock price and a lot of other issues. And I'd also just finally point out, nobody probably has made Disney more money than me, because they were open during COVID and they were closed in California.
Fair
That
enough.
went
Fair
on
enough.
for
We'll see
many,
too.
many months, where literally I had all the theme parks in Florida opened. And
All right. All right. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. And by interesting, I mean exactly what I expected. Let me get some tunes back on, and I'll give you guys my little synopsis, my viewpoint on what that was, how it went, all that good stuff. Yeah, it's just like the announcement's one thing, and then they just keep throwing softballs at him. I'm sure he's planned for it, and it's like, all right, that's not helping anyone. All right, let me pop up my notes here. I took a couple notes during that whole thing. He basically had 3 pillars in his like actual announcement speech. He was talking about mainly immigration. He talked about building a wall, which is interesting. Fiscal, so he's talking about the middle class getting inflated into oblivion and priced out, and then he was talking about military. I've never heard people having a problem with. I know the wokeness in the military is a big right-wing thing, but the recruitment numbers in the military seems odd to me. Like, that's some neocon shit, honestly. And that's kind of the entire vibe, right? DeSantis is Trump without the base parts of Trump. It's just like, it's like Trump light, and he's just an establishment player. So you'll notice that in his entire speech, he didn't say anything that fundamentally challenged what is going on. What is going on right now is corruption to its core. Everything is stacked in the interest of elites. Nothing is for the people. And saying that the left is the real racists or the real guilty ones, it doesn't help anyone. So really, unless you're running on we're gonna nuke the entire government, obviously not physically, but we're gonna like drain the swamp. We're gonna restructure things, and he kind of got a little bit into that with tech. Tech was actually the most impressive that I've heard, because that really is a fundamental problem. Tech lobbying, both the left and the right, is a huge problem. He didn't say that he was going to really do anything about it, though. He just talked about they're drafting up legislature in Florida. That was his answer to tech censorship. See, what happens is, like, again and again, people, candidates that are running for office will give lip service to these things and then get in and not do anything about them. Tech is a huge one. Trump ran on tech censorship as well, and Trump he got kicked off of Twitter as well. He's been censored more than anyone else in this race. And he got in and nothing happened. We didn't even hear about it. They ran on that for months, and then he got in and nothing happened. So this is what I mean. Like, the system is busted, and you can't play their game and win their game. So anything besides a radical revamp of our government, or coming in and saying you're just a complete maverick wanting to shake up the system, in anything short of that is not sufficient. There's more to be said here. I don't know the details of it, but I was watching Sneeko last night, and Nick Fuentes was on talking about some of the ties that DeSantis has to Peter Thiel, which in turn leads to Elon Musk and also foreign lobbies. He's fundamentally part of the system, and he's really not claiming to break the system or reform the system in any way. Most of his talking points were kind of anti-woke talking points, and I just fundamentally disagree that wokeism is the problem. Wokeism is a symptom of a corrupted government and a corrupted media. And so unless you fix the root cause, wokeism will, people being woke will just continue to be woke. Honestly, I respect woke people more than controlled opposition right people, because they're just taking individualism to its logical conclusion. If you agree in the Constitution, if you agree in a republic and individualism, and that everyone should be able to do what they want to do, everyone should be equal, then it just follows that you should be able to do tranny story hour. It just follows that people should be able to do whatever they want in the comfort of their own home, right? Or as long as it doesn't affect me, is something that a lot of people say. Well, there really is no, if you think about it wide enough, there is no such thing as people should be able to do what they want to in their own home. And it doesn't affect me, because the truth is we live in a society, and everything that you do affects someone else. Like, we're human beings. Nobody lives in a vacuum. Nobody is on their own. We all affect each other. And so the question comes down to morality. Is it more moral to let people live their life however they want? Or should there be a part that the government plays in fostering morality in their society? Everyone is so bought into the fact that more freedom equals happier life equals better life. And not only do I not agree, I think it's the opposite. I think individualism just breaks apart a cohesive unit, and our country is supposed to be a cohesive unit. We were talking about this in the last show. Rai went to Japan, and Rai is very liberal. And when he went there, he was like, Japan's just got it together. Like, they're really intact. They have a great community. The reason for all of that is because they are the most nationalistic country that we have right now in the world. They are Japan first, and that is it. Everything else follows after Japan first. And I believe the reason that America is breaking apart is because we're a loose conglomeration of individuals, and there's no cohesion. There's nothing binding us together. It used to be Christianity, because whether or not there were immigrants, whether or not, whatever your color of skin, the country was founded on Christianity. And I think people underestimate the echoes of that and what that core morality brings. Again, on that Sneeko stream last night, they were debating Muslim ideology and Islam versus Christianity. And Nick made a really good point that people take for granted Christian morals, that they think that all religions are based on love. And not all religions have that base of everyone is equal in the eyes of God and everyone is loved. Muslims, in America at least, take that for granted because, Islam is very much an ideology and a religion of subservience to God. You're not equal in the eyes of God. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but this is all to say is that people should be equal in value and in the eyes of God. That is where individualism should be, right? People should have innate self-worth and innate value just because of the fact that they're people. Not because they should be able to do whatever they want at any point in time. And so all of this is to say is that everything that I heard from DeSantis was fundamentally playing within that system. And the system's busted, right? We're 200 years, a little over 200 years into America, you know, the great experiment of democracy. And we're at the natural conclusion of that. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's that this is what democracy leads to. And this is what, not necessarily democracy, but this is what like capitalism and a republic leads to. It leads to the logical conclusion that individuals should be able to do whatever they like. And I just think it's not turning out very well, right? So back to DeSantis. He is obviously within that system. You can tell by the way he talks, the solutions that he was bringing forth. Honestly, talking about military recruitment is sketchy as fuck. Nobody's concerned about that. That is something that came down from higher up, because literally no people are talking about that. Military recruitment. He tried to couch it with like woke ideology, but it was really pretty shallow. Fiscal, he's right on the nose about fiscal reform, but he's again not addressing the problem of it. It's kind of an age-old thing that Republicans say, less taxes, and we got to give money to the middle class, right? They say it again and again, but what really destroys the middle class is all the taxes on businesses, and the fact that elites do not let middle class people go up in status. It's very rare, and this is why crypto is really interesting and kind of important. It's rare for people to jump class structures, because the people who are above are always incentivized to keep you down. Because there's only so many people. If you're in a hierarchy, not everyone can be at the top, right? It's just not how the world works. So talking about taxes is very unexciting, uninteresting. I would have liked to see him talk more about crypto or about actual structural problems. Janix is going to do. Dude, I believe that, Janix. I think you got it, man. But it's rare, right? It's really rare. Immigration, he said the right things, but this just felt like he was parroting Trump, right? He very shortly said we should build a wall, should prevent immigrants, and he's like, well, Florida's the best immigration, and it's like, well, okay, it's not Texas, so you don't have the same problem. You got a lot of ocean down there. It's a little bit different problem. So, if you take him at face value and he actually solves immigration, solves fiscal, and then military is like, get it out of here, that was weird, then okay. But he's really not proposing anything different than what we've heard since 2000 from the Republican Party. And knowing his financial ties, he's incredibly linked in with Thiel. He's linked in with a lot of foreign actors, most of which are from Israel. He is a compromise offered by the elites to the right wing as controlled opposition for Trump. You can tell this because you can tell this by how they attack, right? Trump has been under attack for 8 years, nonstop, hit after hit after hit. They just make things up about him, try and make it stick, and then report on it in the news. When have you seen that with DeSantis? They were talking about a hit piece saying like you shouldn't travel to, there's an advisory on not traveling to Florida. It's like, what are you talking about? That's not a hit. That's just what they do. And yeah, they're going to throw strays, but like Trump is literally, they're trying to throw him in jail, and they will keep trying to throw him in jail until they do it. And I think I see DeSantis as a play to weaken Trump. If DeSantis really cared about the country and he cared about the right wing, he would bow out, or he would never run in the first place, right? It's disloyal and it's unhelpful. And he's not even doing it in a cool way like Trump did, where he's like, I'll run as an independent if I don't win the nomination. He's just there to take away steam from Trump. So I just don't see him as anything different. I don't like him. I wish I did, man. I wish I did. Trump is obviously not 2016 Trump. He's not out saying crazy shit. He's not trying to drain the swamp and build a wall and make him pay for it. You know, like all the base things that he said, that was before he really built up a political campaign. And from what I've heard, his political campaign was instantly infiltrated with people who did not want to see Trump do anything that he was talking about. Dude, yeah, I know. Trump is old though, man. Like I don't like Trump's recent speeches. I love Trump, right? But his recent speeches are so low energy. I mean, honestly, objectively, DeSantis had a better announcement speech than Trump did. Trump was just, all he does now is go on and he whines about how they're attacking him and how unfair it is. And it's just so boring. It's so boring. I feel crazy because I feel like everyone is ignoring what's actually going on and what the problem is. Because everyone wants to play within the game. They want to be the best at the game. They don't want to start a new game. And we're going to keep getting the same stuff as long as we're playing this game. So we need people to go out and speak their minds. We need people to be talking about what they see, honestly. So many people are afraid to say what they see, how they see it. And Elon talks about free speech on Twitter, but you'll notice there are a handful of people that are not allowed back on Twitter. And they all talk about one thing. And I'll let you look into that a little bit because I don't want to get kicked off or whatever, but there's a group of European socialists. Is that the dog whistle now? Andrew Anglin, Nick Fuentes, yay. These are the people who are not allowed on Twitter. And you get the most slack when you're over the target, right? So just something to think about, something to look into. We need something outside of that system. I'm just tired of this very weak rhetoric of the liberals are the real insert X. Liberals and Democrats are the exact same thing. They're bought by the same people. They're not going to do anything about big tech. I mean, DeSantis talks about de-linking tech and the government on a Twitter space with Elon Musk. You think Elon is not doesn't have ambitions of power? Peter Thiel certainly does, and him and Elon and Peter Thiel founded PayPal, if you don't know. And Thiel has put millions upon millions into this quote-unquote dissident right, which actually is just a bunch of controlled right operatives. So, just be wary. Be wary. Think for yourself. Look at what's going on and see, like, ask yourself the question, like, would this fundamentally change something, or will it be the same thing we've had for decades? I have not yet seen, I've not seen someone announce that's actually talking about the right stuff, the stuff that needs to happen in order for us to have a good life and for our country to not completely disintegrate from underneath us. So, mediocre from DeSantis. I'm not a huge fan, but you know, maybe I'm a little bit past where most people are. You know, just my thoughts. What do you guys think? If you got thoughts, send a super chat, hit them up in chat, either one. If you want a super chat, here's the link. If you don't, just send them in chat. We're all good. It's just I'm not trying to be black pilled. I'm trying to be white pilled. Because I feel like the groundswell right now, I think a lot of people are just not happy with what's going on. I think people get it, and I think that I think people know. People get it. In before I get banned. Yeah. So that's it. We'll have to see how things shape up. We'll have to see. I'm interested. I'm excited to be doing more news stuff, especially as we kind of lead up to, the 2024 election. We're going to be covering debates. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff. I'm going to be doing my show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I think we're going to have plenty of content. It's going to be good. The main takeaway here is like, don't be afraid to say what you think. They can't ban your heart, dude. They can ban my account, but they can't ban my freedom. And then you look at Ricky Vaughn, and he literally just posted a meme and went to jail for it. So, I'll say this. It's if there is a fundamental threat to the system, they will throw their entire weight behind stopping it. There is too much money. There's too much power. The world is fundamentally the same as it always has been. Crusades, kings fighting wars, all of it is the exact same, and it's going on right now. It's just veiled in this weird World War III information war. So it's just more obfuscated, but it's still there. And if you look out for it, you can see what's going on. It's really not that complicated. Jan X, I don't think I'm voting unless it's for a pro-crypto candidate. Dude, I don't understand how that's not even in the conversation, honestly. I know, well, I mean, I do understand, right? It's not beneficial for the system right now. They've got a stranglehold with the Federal Reserve and, international gringotts. They've got it locked down, right? So no one's going to come in and try and shake that up, really. What I don't understand is why they haven't spun up or announced a U.S. coin situation. Everyone talks about one world government and talks about the Great Reset and stuff, and why haven't they done it yet? Why haven't they made a coin and try and get everyone on it, or at least incentivize people? Like you get 10% off your taxes by using U.S. coin. That seems like a good move to me, but obviously they're too slow. Yeah, Iron. Look in the Fed. There's a lot of interesting research if you just type some choice things into DuckDuckGo. There's a lot of interesting facts out there. I know they try and discredit anyone who tries to learn about things with disinformation, right? But, we're not stupid. You can tell disinformation when you see it. Not a lemming. Yeah, they need to print more first. Yeah, it does seem like they're trying to collapse the dollar at the same time. So it's not just an option. They don't have to provide incentives. It's just this is necessary to get out of hyperinflation. So that makes sense. It's dark, though. It's real dark. CBDC is called Fed now. Yeah. I don't know, man. Does it feel like things are kind of heating up, though? I feel like that. It feels like from both sides. The war up at top for the president and, against Trump and DeSantis, all that stuff. And then the war for people's minds at the bottom with this, the Bud Light, Target stuff and, people getting banned consistently and Rumble signing big content creators who are banned on YouTube. It feels like something's going on, and it's interesting to see. So I hope it keeps going. I hope people realize what's going on. So that's pretty much it, guys. Pretty much it. That's my take. DeSantis, controlled opposition. Trump, currently controlled opposition with the potential to nuke the system. And this is why they're attacking Trump so much. Biden, I actually don't care. Is he running again? Biden's whatever. Kennedy, interesting. But his speech impediment, genuinely, he will never win because of it. I know that's superficial, but that's just how it works. He will not win because he has a weird voice. Joe Biden launches his campaign. Yeah, so he announced a month ago. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. We'll see. We'll have to see what goes on. The truth is that nothing ever stays the same. So something's going to happen. It can't keep going on like this, whether they try and make it or whether something switches up, right? Things aren't going well, and nobody's turning them around yet, so. We gotta let it go. We gotta tell the truth on free speech Twitter. And genuinely, like, I say that there's a few people that aren't allowed back on Twitter, but it is way better than it was. What I worry about is that it seems better because it's actually just the opposite side of the same coin. That's what I'm concerned about. It seems better, but really, it's like the difference between Clinton Democrats and Bush neocons. You know what I mean? That's what we're going back and forth between, and it's just dog shit. It's just literally nobody but billionaires win in that dynamic. But they're good at keeping that game afloat. They really are. That's why you got to not play the game. Say what you think. All right, guys. That's enough for me today. I'm just rambling at this point. Appreciate you guys being here. Iron, Janix, Steph, and whatever other 2 people are in here. Thank you guys for being here. We'll keep an eye on all this. I'll be back on Friday at 5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. EST. You already know. Follow me on all of my socials. And you can watch us right here on Slum. Go follow Rumble. If you guys have a Rumble account, go follow it. Because when we do get banned off of YouTube, that's where we're going to be. Follow Telegram, too, if you want like actual push notifications. We got a lot of push notifications there. I'm just going to do some transitions. I like seeing these transitions. Woo! Let's go. Let me check and see if we got any super chats. And then we can dip. Finger in my butthole. This beat's good. Could definitely lay down some lyricism here. Okay. Green pills for super chats, man, but literally haven't got one yet, so. So, eventually, I got an animation for it and everything. Eventually, we're going to get there. But either way, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys hitting the like button. It is all good. Don't worry at all. I'm just glad to be hanging out with you guys and stuff, I guess. All right, guys. No super chats. That's all good. I'll catch you later. Friday. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Peace.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me.